Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Disaster. Yes, welcome to the tutorial. And today we're doing shrink plastic. And as usual, we hope and we pray that everything goes as expected. It's usually 50-50, so stay tuned. Right, shrink plastic. What am I going to be using? Well, I can use colour pencils if I want to. Yes, I know they need sharpening. These are Prismacolor, and I've got a couple of samples already to show you before we create. So those are pencils, and I would recommend, even though it's only shrink plastic, that you use a good quality pencil, a paint marker like Posca or Golden, or Touch 5 alcohol ink markers, which is what I am going to be using myself. And those are here. And something else that I've also discovered, I'm going to be using these colours today. We've got a pink, a yellow, a blue. I've got some black if I want to trim an edge of anything. Is that the Jane Davenport paint over pen works really well on shrink plastic. So I'm just going to move that over to one side. And also I've got a EK Tools gold pen. This one came from, it's not really good at doing close-ups today. It's really grey outside. This one came from Tuesday Morning, and I think it was in a pack of silver and gold for either $1.99 or $2.99. But I'm putting that there in case I need it. And first up, these were the ones that I showed you that I'd made either a couple of weeks ago or last week. And these were done with clear shrink plastic. And that's kind of the effect that you're going to get. Just using a stamp, and I use this one. This one's a really old wood block stamp. You can see it needs cleaning. And stays on ink. Now I'm hoping I can get a close-up. Let's see. And I use Touch 5 markers. I use the black stays on ink, and then I just dropped a little gem in the middle and put some UV resin on top. Now those are great, you know, sort of like instead of using enamel dots or something like that, you can dot a couple of those onto a card, or you can use them, just pop one on the edge of a tag or something. So they're just cute little things to make for your stash. But I'm going to pop those there because, you know, I want you to see them because we'll be able to compare. Now this one is using colour pencil. I hope you can see that. That is a butterfly stamp, and you can see just how tiny that is. Using colour pencil, and I went all around the edge there with a black Touch 5 marker. I'm going to try and keep my hands still. There you go. It is super, super tiny. And something like that is a perfect complement to put with those little flowers on a tag. You can just, you know, have your butterfly flying in amongst your flowers. But today we're going to be making a cute unicorn wreath, and I've used the Surprise Creation dies designed by Nicole, and I've used the largest one, and I've also, if I grab it, used a circle from my stash. And I keep all my circles in here. If I've got sort of like odd sets that have got a circle in, and I know that when I use them I'm going to need a circle anyway, I just shove all my circles into one bag, and I pretty much think I've got every single size of circle imaginable in there. So that's what I use to cut out the centre for this. Now this is the BB Craft shrink plastic. So using the largest stitch edge, I can't say it right, can I, of that die. And then I cut the smaller one. You can see I've punched holes in there, and to punch the holes I've used the Dollar Tree hole punch, so it's only $1. So just go ahead and punch a hole in your plastic, and I'm thinking that when it shrinks down it'll be like a nice little bead or something to hang between the two if I want to use it. But that is my wreath, and it looks quite large, and I'm going to measure it because I think, according to my estimations, when you shrink plastic it shrinks by at least 2/3. That's my estimate on it, and we'll find out. So remember that measurement, it's 5 inches across currently. So I'm just going to pop that down there while I move pens out of the way. Otherwise my little space here is going to get way too overcrowded. This is the StazOn ink that I'm going to be using. This is a super old pad. You can get re-inkers, so your ink pads will last for years. I'm using a stamp block, and I use one of those so that you can pop it down on top of what you shrink and just press so that you've got it nice and flat. And of course we're making a wreath, so we don't want it all curled up at the edges. So that's your StazOn and your ink block. I'm also going to be using a sheet of white cardstock so that you can see what I'm doing, and I will put that down. And I've got my lovely tatty old silicone mat here, because if I'm going to use some UV resin, I don't want it on glass, because if you get UV resin on glass, it's not going to come off unless you scratch it off with a razor blade. So I've got my mat, and I've also got my stamp tool. Now the reason that I'm using a stamp tool, I'll try and move everything up again, is because when you're stamping onto a slick surface, your stamps are going to slide. So you're going to need something there. I'm just going to open it to make sure it's not hitting the camera, to hold it in position. Now this is my stamp tool of preference, and I do have the larger one, but this one is the travel size. So I'm just going to open that up for a second and pop out a couple of the magnets, because I want to put my sheet of cardstock in there and just hold that down, and then you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing. Now I've got that in there. Now as you can see, it's sort of like it curls up, it goes a little bit crispy. So I'm just going off on edges there. Might need to move it over a bit more actually, so I can get the magnets, but it does have a slight kink. I'm moving up again there. I think that's better. So just right on the edges, I'm wanting to hold that down, and it's shiny side up. The matte side is face down. The matte side is where you do your colouring. And the stamp set that I'm using was sent to me by You Artists Designs, and it's a cute little unicorn set. If I turn it over, unicorns and rainbows, you've got donuts and you've got ice creams, and I haven't got a clue what that is. And the idea is to make this cute little wreath that you can just hang on anything, whether it be from a tag or what have you. Right, so first of all, I'm wondering if this particular element is actually going to fit within that. So that's the hanging section, so that would be the top. And I don't know if I want to chop anything off or not, but actually I think that might be all right if I put that just there. So there's going to be a little bit of overhang if I do that. I don't think it's going to make much difference if I put it there. No, nor down there. So what I might do is pop it there and just accept the fact that I'm going to have some overhang. And I've got my ink pad ready. I'm going to close the lid, and hopefully it's not going to pull up the shrink plastic, because of course that's like adhering a stamp back to its stamp pack. Oh, and it didn't. Right, that's good. So I'm just going to ink that up. Try and be generous with your ink when you're using StazOn, but you don't want to press too hard. You don't want to ghost your image or smudge it, if you know what I mean. And then we can close the lid, and I'm just going to give a gentle press and see if there's any unevenness in my stamp. I'm going to lift. Can you see? We didn't get all of it. So back down it goes. And this time I have got a press. Sometimes it's a good idea to put a piece or two of kitchen paper underneath your stamps when you're stamping on a stamp platform. And this is not the stamp platform's fault. This is actually the stamp that's not working too well there. So I'm just going to have to get up and give it some heart compression. So let's hope that does it. Nope. See, I told you we get lovely disasters on this show, but I'm pretty sure this is something that happens to everybody at home. I'm just not getting a good impression at all. So I'm just going to flatten that out. I'm going to try for a little bit more ink in that region and see if that will work. Of course, if you were so inclined, you could always go in with a fine liner, but I don't want to do that. So let's squeeze. I mean, I really am giving some heart compression there. And lift that. As you see, completely ruined. It ghosted. And that means I've got to get some stamp cleaner and wipe that off. And I'm going to do just that. And I'm not going to use that stamp when I come back. Right, so I cleaned that off, and you don't have to go making yourself any new shrink plastic. Stamp cleaner will clean it. And let's try this unicorn stamp. Now, this is interesting to me because I'm working on a flat surface and I've even got a silicone pad underneath. So, like I say, it's a branded stamp. So, let's see what happens now. Giving some even pressure all over that. And I really don't like to squeeze hard. Hope I'm not shouting into my microphone because I'm standing up. That's better. It was just the other one that didn't like me. Right, and now I've got little candies and I've got little donuts. So I want to pop that little lollipop there actually, because I think that's really sweet. Just pick that up. Stays on ink again. And I think what I've done is I've kind of learnt my lesson with this stamp set, and I'm never going to be gentle with it again. It's kind of one of those things that you remember when there's something you like and it's not working out. Right, is that correct? Yeah, there's a little bit of the lollipop stick missing there, but I can touch that up after. And after lollipop stick, I'm going to go with a donut here. So I'm going to pop me a donut. And stamp that up. Let's hope that one comes out because it is a small stamp. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish stamping up my wreath and I will be back. So I stamped that and I've dropped the camera, so I'm hoping that you can see that clearly. And the StazOn ink is now dry. You do have to wait for ink to dry on slick surfaces. But if I can get a good close-up there, you can see exactly what you can expect it to look like. Now to colour in, you flip over and you colour on the reverse. So this is why I chose the white cardstock, so that you can have a good look. And the first one I'm going to go in with is terracotta. Now if I find elements within anything that are the same shade, I will colour all of those shades first. So I'm going to do the ice cream cone in terracotta, just small circular motions and just staying within your black outline. Now, perfection is not absolutely important. I mean, obviously, you don't want big gaps of colour missing, but when it shrinks, it kind of intensifies the colour and condenses it. And I've also got my donuts, and I think my donuts are going to be golden in colour, so I'm going to use it again. And of course, for the sake of continuation, not that we're talking a major work of art here, but it's nice to have some colour coordination and similarity in anything that you make, so that the whole thing is pulled together, if you know what I mean. So just doing my golden donut bits, and I think I just need to do the stick of that lollipop. So that's that little bit done there. And I mean, if you think stamps like this are small, think how small it's going to be when it shrinks, you know. So, and my ice cream could be chocolate, but I think it's going to be pistachio. Yeah. Or is it? Maybe it's going to be vanilla. I think it's going to be vanilla. So I'm going to colour it in cream, which is slightly different in shade than the one I've just put down. So just circular motions again. And I hope for you watching this at home, I've stayed within my lines. Probably looks more like chocolate chip, doesn't it? But never mind. So there we have the ice cream done. And for my icing on my donuts, I think I'm just going to go with pink and blue. Why not? So I think this one's going to be pink. Let's hold on to it. Somebody gave me some good information actually, and they said that if you do your video in silence, then you'll be able to sort of like speed it up and fast forward it, so people don't have to sit through all the monotony of everything that's going on. But I just can't help myself. I mean, I do go quiet when I'm creating. That's a very natural thing for me, to just shut up and get on with it. And then I forget that you can't do that because there's people watching at home and they'll wonder where on earth you've gone or something. So there's my little pink donut, and I'm going to go with a blue donut. Maybe I should have yellow actually. What colour have I got here? This one is melon yellow. Yeah, we'll try to reduce the amount of food colouring for any hyperactive people out there. So I'm going for this bright yellow on top of here. And then what I'll do is I'll pause, I'll do some more colouring, and then I'm going to come straight back. So there, we've got a bright yellow donut. And I think it's all coloured in once I've been around that bit there. Maybe a bit more there. Yeah, a little bit of a dot there. And I am going to take my pen, and I'm going to have pink sprinkles, so I'm just going into that little dot, and I don't know whether that's something that's going to show up once it starts shrinking, but I've done it anyway. And over there I'm going to have blue dots, so let's do that, and then I'm going to run away and come back. So I've got little blue dots on there. Right, I'm going to continue colouring and I'll be straight back. So I finished colouring it in, and as you can see, those are the colours that I've used. I've used sort of like a pistachio green, a pink, a cream, a yellow, an orange, paler yellow, and I've used cool grey too to do the muzzle of the unicorns and the little hoofs there. I've used paler shade of yellow in the stars compared to the more yellowy orange of the icing on that donut. Now I'm going to lift my camera because obviously we're going to heat it now, and I hope that it's still in the image. I'm just going to remove the white cardstock for a bit because I don't want anything to stick to that. And I'm looking on here and I can see I've got bits of UV resin, so I'm just going to flip it and put it in an area where there's not. And I'm going to start heating. Now, it doesn't really matter whether you heat from the back or from the front. Honestly, it doesn't. But just remember, we measured it at the beginning and it's 5 inches, and we're going to measure it once we've shrunk it. So hoping and praying I'm not going to melt my camera here. And I've had this for about 12 years. This is an old Ranger. Look, it's all worn away. One day I will buy myself a new one, but I'm quite happy with this at the moment. So here goes. Excuse the noise. Well, I'm hoping that you can still hear me and this isn't deafening you. And what I'm doing is, because you normally put shrink plastic into the oven, you're trying to get an even heat all over the surface until it starts to warp and move on you. And you can see it just starting to lift slightly. And that's basically what I'm doing, is trying to create the effect of having it in an oven where the heat is similar all over the surface. Now, people said, what do you do when it starts curling up? Well, basically, you just keep going. Can you see it all rolling in towards itself? Don't get frightened. We could be about to have another disaster, or maybe not. So I'm doing that, and I do suggest you use tweezers, but I'm kind of used to hot stuff because I do a lot of canning, and I really wish I could show you the whole thing that's going on here, but I've got to keep my heat gun over the surface, and you'll start to see it opening out. And if you don't, you can just go in there with your tweezers, or you can stop before it fully melts, and you can make sure there that it is separated. So just move it around with your fingers for a bit and then just carry on shrinking. I'm actually going to flip that way around. And it's starting to uncurl there. I'm hoping the other side is going to uncurl. Otherwise that can be a problem. But then that's one of the fun things about shrink plastic, isn't it? Is you never really know what you're going to end up with. And that is the truth. Right, that bit is starting to come back now. And I'm just going around and around and around. And I'm trying to show you as much as possible. And that, I think I'm going to flip it back to its shiny surface, because I've got a few little dents and gloops that I don't really want there. And I'm going to go straight in now with my stamp block that I showed to you before, and I'm just going to press. So that's nice and flat, but I can still carry on heating if I want to, and there should be no more warping on the surface. And I'm just going to press again just because I can. And I do have my measure here. I'm just going to pick it up and show you first of all, and move my dryer out of the way, that you've now got this seriously cute. Isn't it gorgeous? See all the colours in there, really bright and pretty. You've got your hangy hole to pop on your tag or what have you. And let's have a look. 2¼ inches, and it started out as 5 inches across. So if you look at where the 5-inch mark is on my ruler there, you can see the shrinkage. But isn't it sweet? If you look at it from the back, that's what it looks like on the back. Now you can, I'm going to get a real close-up on here if it kills me. You can go in now with your UV resin and start to dome it up. And I'm just going to pause for a minute while I get that, because BB Craft did send me some really pretty little gemstones, these, and I'm going to pop 2 or 3 onto there just to make it look a little bit more special. So I am going to get the UV resin and I'll be straight back. Okay, so I've got my little crystals here which are flat back, and I've got those on the mat, and I've also got my pickup tool, and I've also got my UV lamp, which is this one. I like this. It's horseshoe shaped so that you can stand it on a couple of books if you've got something really high that you're trying to set or fix, because you don't just have to use a lamp like this for crafting. I mean, if you've broken the ends on your spectacles or your glasses, for example, you can fix them with UV resin. So I'm just going to stand up because I can't see and the piece has shrunk, and I'm just going to go in with where I think I want a crystal. Now, from this teat pipette here, I am getting quite big blobs of resin. That don't necessarily bother me at the moment, but I could do with getting myself some smaller ones, I think. So I'm going to go there, and I'm just going to touch it there. And now I'm going to wrap my teat pipette up. If you've watched my UV resin videos, and there is a list of them, you will know that I keep everything wrapped up in kitchen foil, because UV resin will set in the sun, and you don't want your bottle of resin, which isn't necessarily cheap, all setting hard on you. So keep it in a dark place and wrap it in some kitchen foil, and that will sort it out for you. Right, I think that's all of my blobs covered. So there's a bit of a random scattering going on there, and I might actually just go in with my teat pipette, and because it will mound on you, so you can do jewellery pieces, I'm just going to kind of like spread that around a bit actually. And I might come in and fully coat it in a minute, I'm not sure. So anyway, you place your lamp over the top, and then you hit the button, and I'm going to set it for 60 seconds, and I'll be straight back. Can you see where the resin has domed? I hope I can get a close-up here. It's domed around those crystals. So what I want to do is I want to even that out, and so I'm going to apply UV resin over the surface of the whole thing. I'll just grab my bottle and I'll be straight back. Right, so I've dragged the camera down as close on my work surface as I can, and I've filled up this teat pipette with resin, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just gently drip it along in a line as soon as it decides to run down to the tip for me, and I'm just going to pop some little dots. It's alright, you have to have a bit of patience because this stuff is not thin. I'm wondering if I put enough in. It looked like I had. Sometimes you just have to wait for it to run and drip. There we go. And I just don't like to get too much of it out because, as I've said, you know, it will set in sunlight. I mean, I'm grateful that it's a grey day and we're going into autumn, which means I can start to use more and more of it. But I'm just trying to empty out this teat pipette and just leave a nice little trail all over the place. I think that's probably as good as I'm going to get. And then I'm going to go in with a little paintbrush here, and first of all I'm going to get it all over. I want it to come up to meet the edges of that I put down, but I don't necessarily want it to sort of like flood over the edges of my spiky bits. So that's brushed on quite thin, and that's coated all over. and you can stipple it so that it will come back together on you and give you a smoother finish. But I actually do think that I need to pop just a little bit more down on there, personally. It's when it starts to crystallize on you. I start to, sort of panic a bit. Because I think, oh, I've made something that I thought was really cute and nice, and now I've gone and ruined it by, you know, sticking it into the light too quick or something. I usually do use UV resin at night time, and I would recommend doing that to anybody. If you use it at night and do your thing, you usually get much, much nicer and smoother results, because once it starts to set hard, that's when you get all your problems. I mean, one of the great things I think about UV resin is that it sets so quickly. And that casting resin that I showed you the other day, I mean, that will set up as an actual polymer resin in 10 to 15 minutes, which is brilliant. If you're looking to actually cast resin and you want instant gratification, then that is absolutely the way to go. Now, I'm hoping that that has taken all, whoops, see what I mean? I'm terrible. All of those brush strokes out. And so I'm looking at it for a little bit of evenness here. I mean, you really are close up because you can see my fingerprints. So we are super, super close to the camera here. And I don't want to get it on the camera lens, so I'm going to try and behave myself. But I think I managed to get rid of all of the brush strokes. So I think I'm just going to have to be happy with that. And I am going to move my brush out of the way. That is also wrapped in foil. And I put that out of the light, and I'm going to bring the light back in. Now, you can see that I've gone over my edges with the UV resin, so I don't necessarily want to set it in this like puddle of mess. So I'm just going to move those crystals for a second. Let's pop those there, and then I'm going to flip my mat over so that I've got a clean side to work on. I'm going to move that, pop that there, and stick my doodah over the top, and I'm going to set that now for 120 seconds, and I will be right back. And here we have the finished piece, and I've threaded a little bit of pink ribbon in there just to resemble a bow. Now I'm going to try and get close up. I'm going to fight with the camera. There you go. Those are all the little colours. That's what happens when you use Touch 5. And it's got that super, super glossy UV resin top on it. But it's just a pretty little thing to give to a child, or to hang off a tag on a gift bag, or even mount it on those, you can get clear foam pads and you could pop it on there, or you can just put it on a couple of glue dots or balloon dots to fix it into the middle of a card. And you've also given a little gift. But I just think that's really, really sweet. So I hope you enjoyed this shrink plastic tutorial. Sorry it got a little bit long, but I will tell you there are parts of it, and I'm trying to teach myself, if I can edit them and make this video shorter than 35 minutes, I will attempt to do so. Right, you have an absolutely fabulous day, and as usual, all links are below, and I'm going to be up again tomorrow with surprise creation, and we're going to be using those planner dies and the kites Yes, that's right. So we're going to be using planner dies and kites, but we've used BB Crafts today, and I've also used Nicole Design for surprise creation, and that was that sort of like zigzaggy chevron edge of nesting circles. Right. Have a wonderful day. Bye.